What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Addy ads checking in. Addy and Skywalker, YouTube's chosen one, talking today about the 2020 pandemic, the plague of 2020, and I just want to talk about my own experience with it my own experience during this time as the economy starts to get going again in Oregon. Governor Kate Brown has just issued an order allowing certain businesses to start opening in all counties, and this is happening in other parts of the nation. So as we start to get things back into gear economically, just want to reflect back on this phase that we went through over the past couple months. And I recall reading about this virus actually the week I left Italy. And I remember FaceTiming my cousin when he was in Oregon at the time, and I'm just making a joke about it and calling it a scam, basically. I wasn't serious, but we just had a laugh about it. Anyways, but it was tongue-in-cheek for sure, but there was definitely some truth in it because of the fact that I definitely did believe that it was over-embellished, as pretty much everything is in our media, and that's putting it definitely euphemistically, because there are times when you see outright propaganda. And this is, of course, legal now for our government to use propaganda for its own citizens or against them, however you want to look at it. And this is because of the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. And anyways, so I left Italy 2 days before the virus arrived in Milan, and I was in the south, but I actually entered Italy through the airport that the virus entered. Fortunately, when I left via Barcelona in Spain, so it didn't matter anyways. But regardless, I was 2 days early leaving, so I get to Oregon, and let's see, I just get settled in, have a good time in the month of February, and I have my birthday, hang out with some French girls. That was pretty fun. And shortly thereafter, I think it was maybe a week after that, if that, I saw a video on Sean Atwood's channel, and he looked quite concerned, and he was expressing his basically prediction that there was going to be this virus coming, this tidal wave, as I believe he worded it. And that got my attention because this guy, he's been to jail, and he's not really he's a really calm dude, really calm, stoic dude, and he looked concerned. So that definitely got my attention. That being said, I didn't really snap into gears, so to speak, as far as understanding the gravity of the situation until even a couple weeks after that, I would say. And that was actually right before it got really crazy. And then the lockdowns came, and when I did kind of snap out of it, so to speak, that week was really crazy. I didn't sleep for like 2 nights, and I was just really going hard on YouTube, and trying to get in touch with people. I was on Twitter just researching any news. I was trying to find out what was going on. I still am. And yeah, I was just, putting out content, trying to get in touch with people. And in addition to that, I was dealing with a lot of external stress because of really a lot of stuff that was out of my control, in as far as stress from other people. So I was dealing with that as well. And my biggest concern, though, that was very, quite secondary, I would say. My biggest concern really was the people who I care about, who are vulnerable, who are in the demographics that are most vulnerable to this pathogen. So that was a huge motivation for me, and it still is. And just learning about the science behind it in terms of the ACE2 receptor, its prevalence in the body, and how it attaches using the spike protein to the ACE2 receptor. And that there are multiple ways that this pathogen can actually bind to the body, which is pretty crazy. Learning the science behind it and the geopolitics too of the fact that it could be a bioengineered weapon. Additionally, the intergovernmental aspect of this has just muddied the picture as well. I mean, this is unprecedented in modern times that we have a pandemic of this magnitude. But pandemics have plagued the human race essentially, I would say, since we've been around. It's just that we only have recently been recording them in terms of human recorded history. So, because it's been so long, in most of our lifetimes, we've never seen this, but our grandparents lived during the time of polio, most of us. So that was definitely something that they experienced. But as far as the Spanish flu, most of us don't know somebody who's still alive who lived through the Spanish flu. That, combined with the fact that the modernization of the world today in 2020 makes this situation unique. I sense the fear not only in myself but others as well. I saw people behaving strangely around me, and everywhere too, in public. There's a lot of concern in the air, but there's such a spectrum of opinions and viewpoints on this situation. It's hard to really make any generalizations. There are people who don't really watch the news at all. There are probably people who only are tuning in now because of this situation. And then there are people who don't tune in ever. They live out in the woods. So that, combined with the media trust situation, it just makes for a real foggy situation where the fog of war kind of takes over, and the fog is lifting slightly, especially from when this first popped off. As I said, the economy is slowly starting to get back into gear, pulling out of the driveway, revving up. So I think that's a good thing. That being said, I do think we need to take precautions in terms of wearing masks when we go in crowded areas or buildings, etc. It's it's become a meme almost at this point to many people, which is unfortunate because that means it's been politicized. Um, which, now it's like wearing a mask. It's like if you wear a mask, people can tell who you're going to vote for almost, which is also unfortunate. But again, this is only specific to the United States and perhaps the United Kingdom. I couldn't say. I'll have to find that out soon because I have been talking to some people from the United Kingdom recently. In the East, they wear masks year round. Not everyone, of course, but people who are sick, people who are worried about getting sick. Maybe they have a cold and they don't want it to get any worse, or they think they may have a cold. Precautionary. They'll wear a mask. It's just understood, and this is because of geography partially, and it probably plays the biggest role in it. In so far as Japan, a country like Japan has millions of people in a small chain of islands, and China is another extreme example of, just a large numbers of people, especially in the big cities, just in close proximity to one another. Taiwan, Taiwan, as far as I know today, they have the lowest rate of infection, if not, one of the lowest rates. So the second, third, fourth order effects of this pandemic, some of them will be felt forever. I think all of them will be felt, definitely one way or another, and will affect the new world that we will live in. But my second greatest fear was, after my family and my own health, was the civil liberties that I feared we may lose. Because I understood before most young people, I would say, the gravity of the situation. I understood that it was bigger than 9/11. I still think it is bigger than 9/11. And we lost a lot of liberties 9/11 with the Patriot Act. And I fear that through complacency or obliviousness or something else, we'll lose even more civil liberties. So that was my second great fear. And that is why I want to urge people to take full advantage of the freedoms they do have, because that is part of our rights as citizens of the United States of America. And to my people in the United Kingdom as well, I would say. I mean, we all have these rights as human beings. I know I have people who listen in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, Bahrain, Germany. There's a couple in the Scandinavian countries as well. You know, regardless of where you live, you got to be really careful not to let your government forget that they are working for the people. I do think there's an enlightenment happening. The 2020 enlightenment due to the coronavirus. And this was seen during plagues before the Renaissance. And I think it was necessary because it humbled the world. It humbled the West. It humbled Americans. Some of them it didn't. But I think it humbled all of us to a certain extent. In the fact that this microbe has caused all of us a degree of stress, whether people want to admit it or not. So, in conclusion, I think that the best way to look at this pandemic is an opportunity to use a hardship and turn it into something good. And to be locked up in your house in a situation like this is a blessing, because there are people in the slums and projects, etc., who have no place to hide from this virus. So many of us are lucky in that sense. And it's a great opportunity to reach out to friends and family, to start reading a book, to finish a book that you started. You know, pick up a new habit. Maybe it's listening to a different type of music. Maybe it's playing music. Reading, writing, singing. Maybe it's going for walks every day, stretching every day. Maybe you're tweaking your diet a little bit. Maybe you're trying to lose weight. Whatever it is, it's a great time to do it. It's the best time to do it. And I think that's one thing I learned while I was traveling, is that you can't run away from yourself as much as you would like to. You know, you can fly to a different continent, but you're still there. Wherever you go, there you are. Wherever you go, there you are. So, likewise, in a situation where we feel like we're in prison, and for many people, the luckiest among us, this is the only situation we've ever felt like this, because there are people who are actually are in prison, who have to deal with coming to grips with this, and some of them don't. They escape in drugs, and a lot of them do this, but the few that make it out, they face themselves, and that the best time to do that for all of us is now too, because of this pandemic. So that's where I'll leave it. I do want to say as well that gotta stay vigilant, stay frosty, friends, and stay tuned for more. Cheers. Ciao. Matane. Until next time. Addy out.